Hi everyone, today I want to talk about something simple yet life-changing, focusing on yourself. In a world where distractions are constant and comparisons are endless, it's easy to lose sight of who you are and what truly matters to you. We often pour our time and energy into impressing others, chasing trends, or worrying about things we can't control. But what if I told you that the key to peace, purpose, and progress isn't out there? It's within. When you start focusing on your own growth, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, everything else begins to align. Your confidence improves, your goals become clearer, you attract better relationships. Why? Because when you're in tune with yourself, the chaos outside can't shake you. Focusing on yourself isn't selfish. It's the foundation for everything else in your life. Just like you can't pour from an empty cup, you can't give your best to the world until you've given your best to yourself. Let go of the need for validation. Trust your journey, invest in your passions, build healthy habits, set boundaries, heal, grow, and above all, your worth. You are not here to compete. You are here to become. So take a deep breath, center your energy, and remember this: focus on yourself and watch everything else fall into place. In today's hyper-connected world, we are bombarded with constant streams of information, from social media platforms to the pressure of societal expectations. We're constantly being shown images of what success should look like, how relationships should be, and what kind of life is worth admiring. Every scroll, every post, every headline subtly influences our thinking, often without us even realizing it. Bombardment creates an unhealthy cycle of comparison, comparing our journey to someone else's highlight reel. We start questioning ourselves. Am I doing enough? Why haven't I achieved that yet? What's wrong with me? Instead of focusing on our own unique path, we begin to measure our worth against someone else's progress, someone else's timeline. And the danger in that is we begin to lose sight of our authentic desires, our natural pace, and even our self-belief. Distractions don't always come in the form of entertainment or noise. They can also be disguised as well, meaning advice, societal pressures, or the need to meet others' expectations. The more we get entangled in these external influences, the more disconnected we become from ourselves. We stop listening to our inner voice, and instead, we try to mold ourselves into something we're not, hoping it will lead us to happiness. But true fulfillment can never come from following someone else's blueprint. It comes from tuning out the noise and turning inward. It comes from asking yourself, what do I really want? What matters to me? When we stop comparing and start connecting with our own purpose, clarity follows. The fog lifts, the pressure eases, and we begin to walk with confidence, not because we're ahead of others, because we're finally aligned with our true selves. Distractions and comparisons are part of life, but they don't have to control your direction. You are the author of your journey, and the moment you stop looking sideways and start looking inward, the path forward begins to reveal itself. When life feels overwhelming, chaotic, or uncertain, it's usually a sign that our attention is scattered. We're pulled in 100 different directions, trying to meet obligations, manage relationships, chase goals, and juggle responsibilities. In all that noise, we rarely pause to ask a critical questions. Where am I in all of this? That's where focusing on yourself becomes not only helpful, but necessary. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean isolating yourself from the world or ignoring those around you. It means reconnecting with your inner world, the thoughts you think, the feelings you suppress, the dreams you've set aside, and the person you're becoming. About shifting your attention inward so that you can listen to your own needs, desires, and truth. When you begin to do this, something powerful happens. The mental fog starts to clear. The anxiety begins to fade. The need for approval loosens its grip. Why? Because when you focus on yourself, you become present with yourself, and peace is always found in the present moment. Too often, we look for peace externally, in accomplishments, in relationships, in material things. But none of those bring lasting clarity or contentment unless we're first centered within. You may achieve success, But if you don't know yourself, you'll still feel empty. You might have people around you, but if you don't understand your worth, you'll still feel alone. Focusing on yourself is the first step toward changing that. It helps you align your actions with your values, your choices with your purpose, and your lifestyle with your well-being. When you prioritize yourself, your healing, your growth, your rest, your passions, you begin to rebuild trust in yourself. You stop second-guessing your decisions. Stop living reactively. You become grounded, intentional, and calm. And from that place of internal peace, clarity emerges. You start to see your path more clearly. You begin to know what to say yes to, and more importantly, what to say no to. You make decisions not out of fear or pressure, but out of confidence and alignment. Focusing on yourself is not about tuning out the world forever. It's about tuning into yourself long enough to know how to navigate it without losing your peace. When your attention returns to you, you begin to rise, not through force or stress, but through steady inner clarity that no one can take away. True personal growth isn't limited to achieving a goal, earning a degree, or building wealth. While these are valuable milestones, real self-growth is holistic, encompasses every dimension of who you are, your mind, your body, and your spirit. When you commit to developing in all these areas, you build a solid foundation of strength that no setback, opinion, or challenge can shake. Let's start with the mind. Mental growth involves expanding your perspective, improving your focus, sharpening your emotional intelligence, and developing resilience. This can be through reading, journaling, therapy, learning new skills, or simply being curious and open-minded. The mind is where beliefs are formed, and when you work on reshaping limiting beliefs and replacing them with empowering thoughts, you begin to transform how you experience the world. You start responding rather than reacting. You begin to see obstacles as lessons. That shift in mindset is powerful, and it all begins with intentional mental development. Then there's the body. Taking care of your physical health is not just about looking good, about building the energy, endurance, and vitality needed to show up fully in life. When you exercise, eat well, rest, and treat your body with respect, you communicate a powerful message to yourself: I am worth caring for. Physical discipline, whether through movement, diet, or sleep, teaches consistency and self-control, qualities that spill over into every other area of life. A strong body supports a strong mind, and both combined give you the endurance to pursue your goals without burning out. Lastly, and perhaps most profoundly, is the spirit. Your spiritual well-being connects you to your deeper sense of purpose, meaning, and inner peace. It doesn't necessarily have to be religious. It could mean meditating, spending time in nature, practicing gratitude, or simply being still and connecting with yourself beyond the noise. Spiritual growth helps you navigate life with compassion, humility, and grace. It reminds you that you're part of something bigger, and it anchors you when everything else feels uncertain. When you grow in all three areas, mind, body, spirit, you create a powerful synergy. Each area supports and strengthens the others. You begin to operate from a place of wholeness rather than lack. You no longer chase external validation because you've built a strong inner core. You don't crumble under pressure because you've cultivated balance and resilience from within. This internal strength doesn't mean life becomes easy. It means you become equipped. Equipped to face challenges, pursue your dreams, and handle whatever life throws your way, not because everything is perfect, but because you are prepared inside and out. It's a natural instinct to want to be there for others, to support our family, friends, co-workers, and even strangers. We want to help, to nurture, to offer our time, our energy, and our presence. But what many of us overlook is the essential truth that you can't pour from an empty cup. When you're constantly giving without refilling, you eventually deplete yourself, physically, emotionally, and mentally. Think of yourself as a well. If that well runs dry, no matter how much you want to provide water to others, you simply can't. The same principle applies to your personal energy and well-being. If you don't take the time to rest, to recharge, to heal, and to grow, you will burn out. And when you're operating from a place of exhaustion or resentment, what you offer others is no longer your best. It's what's left. People often confuse self-care with selfishness, but there is a vast difference. Self-care is not about ignoring the needs of others. It's about ensuring that you have enough strength, patience, and clarity to truly show up for them. When you prioritize your own well-being, you're not taking away from others. You're increasing the quality of what you can give. A rested, centered, and fulfilled person offers deeper love, wiser advice, more genuine empathy, and stronger support. Be honest. When you're overwhelmed, stressed, and running on empty, even the smallest requests can feel like too much. You become irritable, anxious, or disconnected. But when you're taking care of yourself, getting enough sleep, maintaining healthy boundaries, staying aligned with your values, you're able to offer your time and energy with joy instead of obligation. You engage fully instead of half-heartedly. You uplift rather than drag yourself and others down. This principle applies in every relationship, whether you're a parent, a partner, a leader, or a friend. The people who depend on you don't just need you to be present. They need you to be whole. That's only possible when you give to yourself first, tending to your emotional wounds, pursuing your passions, resting when you need to, and saying no when necessary are not acts of selfishness. They're acts of sustainability. Focusing on yourself ensures that what you offer others comes from a place of overflow, not depletion. It means you're not just surviving the demands of life, you're thriving in them. And when you're thriving, the impact you have on others is far more powerful because it comes from a place of fullness, not fatigue. From a young age, many of us are conditioned to seek approval from our parents, teachers, peers, and society at large. We're taught that doing things right earns us praise and doing things wrong leads to criticism or rejection. Over time, can evolve into a deep dependency on external validation. We begin to measure our worth based on how others perceive us, how many likes we get, how often we're complimented, or whether we're accepted by certain groups. There's a fundamental flaw in relying on outside validation. It's unstable and inconsistent. People's opinions can change. Standards can shift. One day you're admired, the next you're criticized. Your sense of value depends on something that's fickle. You'll constantly be on edge, constantly adjusting, constantly questioning who you really are. That's why grounding yourself in self-worth is so crucial. When you know your own value, independent of anyone else's approval, you become unshakable. You stop needing to be liked by everyone. You stop compromising your boundaries just to be accepted. You start living from a place of authenticity rather than performance. Self-worth means understanding that you are enough as you are. Not when you've lost weight, not when you've earned a degree, not when you've achieved success, but right now, as you are. It comes from recognizing your intrinsic value, your unique voice, your journey, and your purpose. And once that belief is firmly rooted, you begin to make choices that reflect it. You no longer stay in toxic relationships to feel wanted. You don't say yes to things that drain you just to seem agreeable. You stop overworking yourself just to prove you're capable. Living from self-worth also frees you from the exhausting trap of comparison. When you know who you are, you stop needing to outshine others to feel significant. You celebrate your progress, even if it's slower. You honor your journey, even if it looks different. You trust your timing, even if others are moving faster. And, perhaps most importantly, when you're grounded in self-worth, you become more peaceful. You no longer chase validation because you're already secure in your own skin. You're not constantly performing, pleasing, or pretending, being. And that state of being attracts exactly the kind of people and opportunities that align with your truth. External praise becomes a bonus, not a necessity. Criticism loses its power because it doesn't define you. And through it all, you remain centered because your sense of worth comes from within, and that is a power no one can take away. In today's world, easier than ever to fall into the trap of constantly seeking validation from others. With the rise of social media, instant feedback, and comparison culture, people are conditioned to look outside themselves for affirmation. A compliment, a like, a comment, a thumbs up, all these external signs of approval can start to feel like essential fuel. And over time, many of us begin to depend on that fuel just to feel seen, appreciated, or enough. But there's a major problem with living for external validation. It keeps you disconnected from yourself. When you rely on others to tell you that you're valuable, beautiful, successful, or worthy, you give them the power to decide how you feel about yourself. Your confidence becomes fragile. Your self-esteem rises and falls with someone else's words or silence. You begin to shape your identity around others' expectations instead of your own truth. That's why grounding yourself in self-worth is such a powerful shift. Unlike validation, which is something you receive, self-worth is something you claim. It's not handed to you by someone else. It's not based on your performance, appearance, or popularity. Self-worth comes from within, the unshakable belief that you are enough, not because of what you do or how much you achieve, but simply because you exist. It's the understanding that you have inherent value even when no one is watching, even when you're not being praised, even when you make mistakes. When you develop true self-worth, you stop chasing approval. You start living in alignment with your values instead of trying to fit into someone else's mold. You make decisions based on what feels right for you, not based on how others will react. You become free to express yourself authentically, knowing that your worth isn't on the line. And that authenticity, ironically, what draws the right people and opportunities into your life. Because nothing is more magnetic than someone who knows who they are and doesn't need permission to be it. Grounded self-worth also gives you emotional freedom. You're less sensitive to criticism because you understand that someone else's opinion of you isn't a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of them. You stop over apologizing, over explaining, or trying to win people over. You no longer feel the need to prove your worth because you already know it. This doesn't mean you reject all feedback or isolate yourself from connection. It means you develop a healthy relationship with yourself first, so that your self-esteem is not on life support from others' praise. You welcome support and encouragement, but you're not dependent on it. You're open to growth, but you're not insecure about who you are. The moment you stop waiting for the world to validate you and instead decide to validate yourself, you reclaim your power. You no longer have to hustle for your worthiness. You stand firmly in it. You become rooted. You become calm. And in that stillness, you find something far greater than approval. You find peace. One of the most misunderstood concepts in personal growth is the idea of focusing on yourself. Many people hesitate to turn their attention inward because they fear being labeled as selfish, arrogant, or self-absorbed. Society often praises selflessness and self-sacrifice while quietly discouraging self-prioritization. Here's the truth: being self-focused does not mean you care less about others. It means you care enough about yourself to take responsibility for your own well-being, happiness, and direction in life. Being self-focused is not about pushing people away, disregarding their needs, or living in isolation. It's about making a conscious decision to stop neglecting your own needs in order to constantly meet the demands of others. About recognizing that your life is your responsibility and no one else can live it for you, manage it for you, or create meaning in it but you. When you're self-focused in a healthy way, you begin to ask essential questions. What do I need right now? What brings me joy? What drains me? Where am I compromising myself to please others? These questions aren't signs of narcissism, they're signs of maturity. They show that you're beginning to take ownership of your experiences, your emotions, and your outcomes. You're stepping out of the mindset that your happiness is in someone else's hands, and stepping into the mindset that it's up to you to build a life that feels aligned and fulfilling. Being self-responsible means setting boundaries that protect your peace. It means saying no without guilt when something doesn't serve you. It means investing time in things that matter to you, even if others don't understand. also means holding yourself accountable, recognizing that if you're unhappy, unfulfilled, or stuck, it's your job to do the inner work required to change that. Blaming others, waiting for rescue, or hoping things will magically improve isn't a strategy, it's a stall. Ironically, the more you focus on yourself in a grounded, intentional way, the better you become for the people around you. When you're balanced and centered, you bring more kindness, patience, and clarity into your relationships. When you're not secretly resentful from overextending yourself, you show up with authenticity and warmth. When you're self-aware, you're more emotionally intelligent. When you're aligned with your values, you become a model for others to do the same. So rather than diminishing your ability to care for others, being self-focused enhances it. Self-responsibility is the highest form of self-respect. It says, I matter enough to take care of my mind, body, and spirit. It says, I will not abandon myself just to be accepted. It says, I am not a victim of my circumstances. I am the author of my story. And when you live from that place, everything in your life begins to shift. Not because the world suddenly changes, but because you do from the inside out. A powerful relationship between how you treat yourself and how the world responds to you. Often, people wait for life to hand them opportunities, relationships, or recognition before they feel confident, successful, or worthy. But what they don't realize is that the world is constantly mirroring back the energy, beliefs, and intentions they project. When you start to invest in yourself, truly, consistently, and intentionally, you begin to shift not only your internal landscape, but also the way people and circumstances interact with you. Investing in yourself goes far beyond material efforts. It means putting time, energy, and care into your personal development, your physical and mental health, your emotional healing, your passions, and your goals. It's choosing to wake up early to exercise when you could stay in bed. Reading a book that challenges your thinking instead of numbing your mind with endless scrolling. It's having hard conversations with yourself about what you really want and where you've been playing small. Every small action you take to grow, evolve, or care for yourself sends a message to the universe, and more importantly, to you, that you are valuable and worth the effort. When you treat yourself like a priority, begin to take notice. When you walk with confidence, not arrogance, but a quiet certainty rooted in self-respect, people feel it. When you speak with clarity and integrity, people listen differently. When you create and honor your boundaries, the energy around you shifts. You no longer attract chaos, disrespect, or neglect because you've stopped tolerating it within yourself. It's not just spiritual talk, it's psychological and practical. The effort you put into your self-awareness, your skills, your mindset, and your growth builds competence, which builds confidence. And confidence opens doors, draws opportunities toward you, whether it's in your career, relationships, or creative pursuits. People are drawn to those who know their worth and don't need to beg for it to be acknowledged. But here's the most important part. Value the world reflects back isn't always immediate or obvious. Investing in yourself requires patience. It's planting seeds day after day, even when you don't yet see the fruit. Showing up for your future self when your present self wants to quit. It's trusting that every workout, every journal entry, every course taken, every boundary enforced, and every quiet act of courage is adding up, bit by bit, to something much bigger. Eventually, the shifts begin to show. The way people speak to you changes. The kinds of relationships you attract are different. Opportunities you once felt weren't meant for you suddenly feel within reach. And it's not because the world suddenly decided you were worthy. It's because you finally did. And once that inner investment is made, outer world can't help but mirror it back. One of the most powerful truths in life is this: whatever you consistently give your attention to will expand. Your energy is a currency, and where you spend it determines the kind of returns you receive. Whether you focus on growth or fear, solutions or problems, gratitude or lack, those thoughts, emotions, and intentions begin to shape your reality. The mind is incredibly responsive. It's like fertile soil. Whatever seeds you plant and water with your attention, it will nourish regardless of whether those seeds are empowering or destructive. When you constantly focus on what's wrong, what's missing, or what could go wrong, you begin to live in a state of mental scarcity. You start to attract more situations that affirm that mindset simply because your mind is attuned to looking for them. You become reactive instead of proactive. You reinforce feelings of helplessness, stress, and self-doubt, often without realizing it. Even positive opportunities can pass you by because you're too consumed by fear, insecurity, or negativity to recognize them for what they are. But when you begin to intentionally direct your focus toward personal growth, purpose, possibility, your inner world, and eventually your outer world starts to shift. You begin to notice opportunities for learning. You feel more gratitude for the present. You develop a sharper sense of purpose, and that clarity makes your decisions more intentional. Focusing on yourself, your habits, your mindset, your growth, fuels progress in a way that external validation or circumstances never can. Think about the difference between someone who wakes up every day consumed by worry and someone who starts their day with intention and gratitude. One lives reactively, the other proactively. One is drained by circumstances, the other is energized by possibilities. This difference doesn't come from luck or privilege. It comes from focus. The first person's energy is scattered in fear. Second person's energy is channeled into building something meaningful. This principle applies across every aspect of life. If you focus on your health, you start to feel better physically and mentally. You focus on your emotional healing, your relationships improve. If you focus on your passions, your creativity expands. If you focus on your goals, your daily actions begin to align. But if you focus on distractions, drama, or comparing yourself to others, that's exactly where your energy will go, and it will pull you further from your own path. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean ignoring the world around you. It means becoming a more conscious participant in it. It means choosing where your attention goes instead of letting the world choose for you. Every time you say yes to focusing on your well-being, your dreams, your personal growth, you're redirecting your energy toward building the life you actually want, instead of the one that simply happens to you by default. In the journey of focusing on yourself and watching everything fall into place, one of the most crucial skills you can develop is the ability to set clear and firm boundaries. Boundaries are the invisible lines that define where your responsibility ends and someone else's begins. They protect your mental, emotional, and physical space from being overwhelmed or drained by external demands, distractions, or negativity. Many people struggle with boundaries because they fear disappointing others or being seen as selfish. They often say yes to every request, tolerate behaviors that hurt them, or overextend their time and energy in an effort to please or avoid conflict. But what happens over time is a gradual depletion, a subtle but relentless erosion of your inner resources. Without boundaries, you leave yourself vulnerable to burnout, resentment, and loss of direction. You may find yourself exhausted, distracted, or frustrated, wondering why your life feels chaotic even when you're trying so hard to keep up. Setting boundaries is an act of self-respect. It's telling yourself and others that your well-being matters. It's a declaration that you are worthy of care and consideration just as much as anyone else. Boundaries can take many forms, saying no to commitments that don't align with your priorities, limiting time spent with people who drain your energy, carving out moments in your day just for yourself, or protecting your mental space from negative influences like gossip or constant complaining. When you establish healthy boundaries, you create a container for your focus and energy to thrive. You're no longer scattered or reactive because your energy is being protected and directed intentionally. This makes it easier to concentrate on your goals, engage deeply in your passions, and maintain emotional balance. Boundaries help you prioritize what truly matters instead of getting caught up in distractions or other people's agendas. Additionally, setting boundaries improves your relationships. When you communicate your limits clearly and kindly, You foster respect and understanding. People learn how to support you in ways that honor your needs, and the quality of your interactions improves. Boundaries create space for mutual respect rather than codependency or resentment. They allow you to show up as your best self rather than a depleted or overwhelmed version. Learning to set boundaries can be uncomfortable at first. You might face resistance from others or even from your own doubts and fears. The discomfort is temporary and the benefits are profound. As you practice this skill, you gain confidence and clarity. You stop feeling guilty for prioritizing yourself. You start valuing your time and energy as the precious resources they are. Ultimately, boundaries are a vital tool for maintaining focus on yourself. They guard your progress by preventing unnecessary distractions and energy drains. Empower you to live intentionally and sustainably, ensuring that the energy you invest in yourself yields the greatest possible growth and fulfillment. One of the biggest challenges when focusing on yourself and trying to create meaningful change is learning to trust the process. Growth, whether it's personal, emotional, professional, or spiritual, is rarely linear or immediate. A journey filled with ups and downs, setbacks, breakthroughs, and moments of doubt. Patience becomes an essential virtue because without it, frustration and discouragement can easily derail your progress. Trusting the process means understanding that transformation takes time. Just as a seed doesn't become a tree overnight, the efforts you put into yourself now won't always yield instant results. Sometimes you won't see visible progress for weeks, months, or even years. But every small step, every act of self-care, every decision to prioritize your well-being adds up beneath the surface, creating fertile ground for lasting change. Easy to fall into the trap of comparing your journey to someone else's highlight reel, especially in an age where social media showcases successes but rarely reveals the hard work behind the scenes. When you feel impatient or stuck, remind yourself that growth is deeply personal and unique to you. What matters most is your commitment to keep going, even when progress feels slow or invisible. Trusting the process also means embracing imperfection. You will make mistakes. You will face setbacks. You will have days when motivation is low or self-doubt creeps in. These moments are not failures. They're part of the learning curve. Each challenge offers valuable lessons that strengthen your resilience, deepen your self-awareness, and clarify what truly matters to you. By leaning into these experiences instead of avoiding them, you cultivate the grit and grace necessary for sustained growth. Another important aspect of trusting the process is letting go of the need to control every outcome. Sometimes life unfolds in unexpected ways, and holding on too tightly to specific results can lead to frustration. Instead, focus on consistent action and intention. Celebrate the progress you make, no matter how small, and be open to the new paths that may emerge along the way. This openness creates space for creativity, new opportunities, and deeper fulfillment that you might not have envisioned at the start. Patience is also an act of kindness toward yourself. It means honoring your pace, recognizing that personal transformation is not a race but a lifelong journey. When you cultivate patience, you create a supportive inner environment where growth can flourish naturally rather than being forced. This gentle persistence allows you to build lasting habits and a resilient mindset that can weather any storm. Ultimately, trusting the process and being patient with your growth empowers you to stay focused on yourself without becoming overwhelmed or discouraged. It invites you to lean into the journey, to appreciate the small victories, to believe in your capacity to evolve. When you embody this trust and patience, you not only transform your own life, but inspire others to do the same, creating a ripple effect of growth, healing, and empowerment. So, as you focus on yourself, with patience, with boundaries, with self-worth and self-responsibility, trust that everything else will begin to fall into place. Life has a way of aligning when you prioritize your growth and nurture your own well-being. Remember, this journey is yours and yours alone, and by investing in yourself, you create a foundation strong enough to support all your dreams and aspirations. Believe in your worth, honor your path, and embrace the process. The transformation you seek is already happening one step at a time. Keep your focus clear, your heart open, and watch as the pieces of your life start to come together in ways you never imagined possible.